Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That is my co-host Tyson Gentry. We have another edition of the Offseason Office today, Tyson. A ton of stuff going on with NFL free agency, NFL draft stuff. If you haven't seen that out, go check out our NFL draft dive that we've been doing, analyzing what teams should do with their early picks. And then obviously things are going to change with NFL free agency that's come. So we got to address that and everything like that, Tyson. But besides that, we got a loaded week this week, man. NCAA tournament, which I know you're ready for.
Oh, it's time to get fired up, man. We got a good week here. My favorite part of all sports is when the legal tampering period opens in the NFL and contracts are signed within 30 seconds. I love it so much. Why have a legal tampering period in the first place? As soon as the season's over and you're not under contract, who gives a fuck? You should be able to negotiate with whoever you want. I mean, these things are done at the combine, and then we have to wait 3 weeks. Shout out to Schefter and them for staying tight-lipped because I know that's probably pretty tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And so official free agency period, to Tyson's point, starts on March 15th on Wednesday. So it's been agreed to, it's been signed. Like, it's not officially signed yet, but it's reported that they're going to go there, which is absolutely hilarious. So we'll get to all the big moves in NFL free agency and what teams have done well and things like that we'll highlight. But let's start here because when we left off for the weekend, we had a whole breakdown of what the Panthers should do at their current pick. And now they trade up to 1 on Friday. It was like a news dump. It was like, here we go. Panthers trade for 1, and everybody was scrambling at the end.
We had 6 hours of content. That's how it lasted, 6 hours. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's irrelevant.
So they traded the 2023 first-round picks. That's the 9th overall. Their 2023 second-round pick, which is the 61st overall in this year's draft. The 2024 first-round pick, DJ Moore, and a 2025 second-round pick. So quite a haul for the Chicago Bears while the Panthers just get up to the number 1 in this year's draft. So let's start wherever you want to take it, whether you want to take it from a Bears side or the Panthers side. What did you think when you first saw this?
I think let's start from the Panthers side. I think the Bears side's probably been talked about quite a bit, and for good reason. I think they did pretty well for themselves. For Carolina, like, you have to have so much conviction in who you're going up to get at 1. Granted, you have to get above the Texans because they're not budging, right? So it's 1 or bust, basically, if you really, really like a guy. And the rumor is that CJ Stroud. Yep. It's just, we broke down the quarterbacks, and we've watched these guys play now for 3 years in most cases, some of them a little bit longer. Will Levis was right down the dorms from Brad not too long ago. It's not a class that I look at and say, wow, there's a can't miss guy here. Like, everyone in the world knew the floor for Trevor Lawrence was probably QB 16 in the NFL, and he's already exceeded that. We all knew with Andrew Luck, the floor was QB 16. With CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and it's probably going to be Stroud. But when you look at these guys, like, you can talk yourself into a floor of, he's not playing.
Right.
This guy's not playing for me. I trust the coaching staff they put together. I think Frank Reich, and I know you agree with me, he's a very talented head coach. I think Jim Caldwell being there is huge. It's a quarterback's dream, basically, to go there to learn. The problem is, you go sign DJ Moore last year to a 3-year, $60 million contract extension. He is missed on 60% of the throws this year, and then you ship him out right before you go get your franchise quarterback, and you ship out Christian McCaffrey. So now it's CJ Stroud and Brian Burns. Like, those are your marketable guys, and they play different sides of the ball, and one impacts the game far less. I mean, this is a huge swing.
Yeah, and I think what the Panthers are really trying to do here, Tyson, is, or what this suggests to me, is that they're completely ripping this thing down to the studs on the offensive side of the ball. Now, their defense, they already addressed that a couple years ago when they went all defense in that draft and wanted to see who can play. But I think really it's, hey, Frank, come in here, take a look at what we've built so far, and then you do whatever you want to do on the offensive side of the ball and take it from there. And I agree with you, man. Like, they have a great offensive staff. Now, Josh McCown, quarterback's coach, I think he's going to be great for any young quarterback that comes into that franchise. Like, he was rumored to be a head coach for different places as soon as he retired, which is crazy, but just Houston. You're right. But anybody who said he's great in the quarterback locker room or great in the quarterback room, he does an exceptional job mentoring. So I think that's a good position to be in for any of these young QBs. But I think you're right. There isn't a Lawrence. There's not a Luck. And when you go up and get a number 1 guy, especially for this haul, you're wanting those type of blue chip players in this draft, or at least those can't miss players. And we're not quite sure if any of these guys are those types of players. Now, the ceilings I think are high on Anthony Richardson, Levis, Bryce Young even could be great if he does what he did at Alabama in the NFL. And CJ Stroud, if he's as accurate as he was, he's going to be able to play for a long time. But that's the questions. We're like, if for all these guys, whereas Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, or any of these other great QBs that have gone one, it's always been that will translate. They have that skill set. I think what's interesting here before we take it to the Bear side, Tyson, is there's rumors that the Panthers may trade down from this pick as well.
I don't buy it for a second. I can't.
So why do you think that would come out? That seems strange to me. It's like, hey, we're one. We can tell everybody who we're going to take.
You know
why would it even be floated?
It was probably the same guy who was leaking how Anthony Richardson is killing it in these interviews during the combine, just for the teams to come out and be like, actually, he was like third or fourth for us in the interview room, which is to say that I think Anthony Richardson's agent's working overtime. There's no way to trade all the way up to one and then get there and be like, man, we're fine with any of these three. Because if that was the case, then you're calling Arizona at 3 and you're giving up less. And maybe they tried. Maybe we don't know that part and they tried. I have to imagine that they would have if that was an option on the table or if they liked all three. I think that's just smokescreen to let everybody, like, that's just their organization saying, we're not telling you guys who we're picking yet. Because if they came out now and they said, we're taking CJ Stroud, that does them no good. Like, you're trying to make Houston sweat. You want Houston to really believe that you love Bryce Young or you love whoever they love. And in that scenario, maybe it's possible. But you don't do this, especially this early, for this to happen. Like, this is Jared Goff, Carson Wentz year where the Rams go up and then it's like, well, we don't know. Even though we knew the whole time it was going to be Jared Goff.
Keep an eye on the Colts trading up to that one spot. If the Panthers truly are in business here, I can picture the Colts being desperate enough to get up to that one spot because it's a bad organization, in my opinion, at this point. The owner is erratic. I don't think Chris Ballard's a very good general manager. I think he's gotten his ass kissed by the media, but I don't think that's the reality of where we're at in terms of how good the guy is. And I think he knows if he doesn't have a good couple years, he's going to be fired. And I don't know if anybody else will really hire him in that same position soon after he's let go. So I think there's a potential that the Colts get desperate and trade up to that one spot, Panthers recuperate and actually get the guy they wanted all along at that 4 spot. I could definitely see that.
That's like 60 chess. That's 60 big chess. Brain.
That is. All right. We'll discuss the Bears again in a bit as we move on here to NFL free agency because, like we highlighted off the top, this is a big day. I thought the NFL, quite honestly, they're just so good with the calendar, how they get their content, cycled out there. Like, we're all excited for March Madness. Then boom, NFL free agency. We're like, oh shit, the NFL. That's right. What about fantasy football? What's going on? They're fantastic with how they just control the calendar. And the biggest ones here with Tyson were the Bears. I mean, they made some big moves today, and we're not going to run through all the signings because that's, first of all, boring. And second of all, you can go to NFL.com. They have a great tracker. This is actually one of the best I've seen in a long time with this stuff. Finally, somebody out there is not an idiot and like put something super easy to use. Thank you, whoever
Brad
did
figured
this.
out how to use the computer today is what happened.
So let's dive in here. I mean, the headliners, everybody's like, man, I can't believe, they let Roquan Smith go and to sign TJ Edwards and Trayvon Edmonds. But I think the Ed brothers here at linebacking, that's what I'm calling them now. The Ed brothers here for the Bears. I think this is smart. Now, Edwards is a good linebacker. We're familiar with him for the Eagles. Tremaine Edmonds is really good, borderline great. I don't think none of these guys are elite like Roquan Smith, obviously. But Edmonds signing a 4-year, $72 million contract, 50 of that guaranteed. Then Edwards, 3-year, 19.5, $12 million guaranteed. That's just a great way for them to use their money. And we highlighted that they have a ton this offseason and need to spend that cash. I think they did a good job shoring up that defense.
And this is a move that I think on the surface, people might be a little puzzled by. Like, oh, why'd you get rid of Roquan just to do this? When you look at the way Matt Eberflus's defense is set up, and Roquan and Tremaine Edmonds are different linebackers. And I think that when you watch this defense at its best, and you can go back and kind of see those days with in Indy, right? And I'm blanking. What is Darius Leonard? Shaq, right? That's what
Shaq Leonard. Yep.
Shaq Leonard. Okay. Sorry for that disrespect, but like they need somebody to play like in that system and in that scenario, Roquan's going to play more off ball, and he's going to be doing things a little bit different that aren't super necessary to the way Eberflus wants to control that defense. That's why I think this makes a ton of sense. Like Tremaine Edmonds is, as far as we're concerned, he's still 16 years old, right? Remember he came in and that was the big deal. It's like
It's crazy.
This guy's a year out of high school. I mean, what is he? The dude's like 25 though, for real, and he's all the way.
He came into the league at 20.
Yeah, and he's all the way through his first contract with the 5th-year option. He gets paid. I really like it for the Bears, and it's bold to pay 2 linebackers. When you have $93 million in cap and you have the cap jumping an estimated $24 million next season, these are moves you make. And then you kind of fill out the gaps later and you say, oh, this didn't work. This didn't work. TJ Edwards, very minimal guaranteed money there. Like I think $12 million guaranteed or something like that over the 3 years. So $4 million guaranteed. If that doesn't work, it's not hard to move off of. I like it from a Bears perspective, because this is the first time in a minute where it's like, well, they're sick of being bad. Like they're over being the doormats in the NFC North, which might not sound like anything to people, but to me, like that's the first shift that you need. The Lions had it, and then all of a sudden now we're all bought in, right? The Browns had it, and then they make the playoffs with Baker and end up winning a game. Like it starts at the top. You have to spend money. You have to show people like, dude, 3-15 or 14 or whatever it is now is not good enough.
Yeah, and I think people were questioning Ryan Poles, and I think it was easy when, you traded Roquan Smith. Everybody's like, what an idiot. Like, are you serious? But
we were on Team Poles.
We were on Team Poles for that. And because everybody sees that, like, again, this isn't Madden. Like, this isn't fantasy football where one player is a game wrecker and you can win in the NFL like that. That's just not how it works anymore. You need a roster, and you need somebody to build a roster that suits what your coaching staff wants to do and what highlights the strengths of the coaching staff and then the players. So you need people to fit that system and players who can excel in that system. So I think Poles has done a good job here. Major asset building through just trading the first overall pick, which was awesome for them. Getting DJ Moore, who's going to be their bona fide number one, letting kind of Justin Fields know, hey, dude, like you have to be good next year or we can move off of you. And we will, because I think next year's class is interesting if the Bears do suck. And then Nate Davis, offensive guard. What did the Bears struggle at last year? That was blocking. 3 years, $30 million, $19.25 million guaranteed. So another thing, Tyson, if he stinks, not hard to move off of, and you just keep opening up that cap space. And it's the opposite of the Saints, where they keep kicking the can down the line where they have to pay it eventually. They're like, dude, we'll just keep having the money to spend, monopoly money to spend.
And it's important as we talk about draft season too, and Brad and I have been hammering the table to bet draft picks, and you can make good money there. They didn't get McGlinchey. They missed out on Jawan Taylor. We'll see what happens with Orlando Brown Jr., but they're not in the tackle market the way that people thought they were going to be, at least at these prices. They move back to 9, and all of a sudden you're in Skoronski range, you're in Paris Johnson range. So that's something I think to pay attention to from a betting standpoint. And dude, you're not getting me out of here without me just saying like DJ Moore is the best receiver that not only that Justin Fields has played with, but the best receiver to put on a Bears uniform since probably Brandon Marshall. And the only competition for that
disrespect, man. Come
DJ
on.
Moore is better than A-Rob.
Oh no,
he's better than Allen Robinson, man. It truly once this if this works, and that's kind of the big deal, is he's putting up 1,000 yards a year essentially, and a handful of touchdowns with Sam Darnold and Brad Shoulder, Cam Newton, and PJ Walker. And so now you expect like, oh, people are going to see this guy's a bona fide number one. Because to me, whatever you think Terry McLaurin is, DJ Moore is just a little bit better version of that. If Justin Fields can't play, Justin Fields can't play. It doesn't matter who you go get. The biggest winner in the wide receiver room for the Bears was Darnell Mooney, because now he gets to slide out to what is he always should have been playing, which is a number 3 on a team. Claypool will kind of play that big physical run blocking wide receiver, which is going to be very important in this offense. DJ Moore is going to kind of be more of Justin Fields' safety blanket, and that frees up Darnell Mooney to get busy, which is crazy because 2 years ago, people were trying to talk themselves into this skinny framed, short wide receiver as a wide out one. There's no body types like that on the outside in the NFL. He gets to go to a spot that will work for him and honestly makes this offense a lot better than they would have been if he wasn't there. I think he's going to be a great 3.
Skoronski, Northwestern's in the Chicago area. He's going to the Bears at 9 if they don't trade again. I think it's locked up. He's a top 10 pick. He's going to go to the Bears at 9. That's my That's my prediction here. Um, Raiders get Jimmy G, surprising literally nobody, as we did on our draft dive on Friday. As we were diving into the Panthers, we said Jimmy G is going to the Raiders. We had no sources. All we had was our gut because we're not dumb. And so he signs with the Raiders today. 3 years, $72.75 million, 24.25 in year one. I love this for the Raiders. I think this is great reuniting him with my Josh McDaniels. Obviously, their time in New England together. It's not going to be hard for Garoppolo to understand this offense. I think he's going to be able to make better decisions than Carr, who at times is terrified to let the ball rip. Like Garoppolo, for everybody that criticizes him, he is efficient. And he may not be, and he's not a top end guy like a Burrow, like a Mahomes, like a so-and-so, go down the list, and Allen, anything like that. The guy just fucking wins games. And you're like, well, the Niners were stacked. Without Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan has not had a very good record, except for the Brock Purdy experiment that we had at the end of the season for the 49ers. So Garoppolo is a winner, and I think he's going to bring a different attitude to that Raiders locker room. Also signing Marcus Epps, the safety, who was with the Eagles last year, 2 years, $12 million, $8 million
Such
guaranteed.
a Raider. He's such a Raider, dude. He flies downhill. He wants to hit. He makes you shake your head half the time when he's in pass coverage, but like he's going to be a perfect Raider, and he's 3 times better than Abrams is or was or could be in that defense. So that's a good signing there. But on the Jimmy G thing, dude, odds for the Raiders to win the Super Bowl before the trade plus 4,000. Odds after the trade plus 4,000.
Yeah, but that's because they're in the AFC and that stacked division. You know, so like he's not going to move the needle that much.
The needle doesn't move. That's kind of was my point. Like it's good for him that he's going to get a little bag here. I think it doesn't take quarterback off the table at 7. I think it's good for the Raiders to get some stability for the next couple of years. Somebody to at least play quarterback because we didn't know who the answer was. But it doesn't improve the team. I think that he can find ways to win games that Carr lost. And that you can improve on the edges there around the margins, but it's still the Raiders, man. And I'm seeing people getting really, really excited about this, and I still don't see it with this team, man. You gotta tackle somebody.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they need to address their defense for sure. I'm excited for what Garoppolo is going to do with that offense, though. I mean, I'm clearly not a Derek Carr guy.
Darren Waller's back, is what you're saying?
Darren Waller's back. He's going to be
menu.
targeted. And I like Devontae Adams in this offense, man. We saw it last year, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get him the ball a lot. I mean, it felt like Derek Carr, like Devontae Adams would have a huge game, and all of a sudden he's like, well, I can't throw to him anymore. It's like, why, dude? Throw him the ball 70 times. Like, nobody can guard him.
When he got 12 catches, it felt like they scored 30 points, and then he'd get 3 catches, and it was like, did they just get shut out by the Chargers?
It was frustrating last year. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's a good start for the Raiders, though, quite honestly. I think they address some needs, and we'll see what they do with their draft picks, as we highlighted in the draft dive episode. You can go back and watch. Speaking of Jimmy G's old team, man, the 49ers. Interesting, I think, in terms of who they let go and who they signed and how much money they spent. But Javon Hargrave, 4 years, $84 million, $40 million guaranteed, coming on over from Philadelphia at that defensive tackle spot. Tashawn Gibson re-signed. That's their safety. Kevin Givens re-signed, their D lineman. But they also lost right tackle Mike McGlinchey. Now, people have criticized McGlinchey, saying he's the worst piece on that offensive line. So I don't think San Francisco, at least our fans, were too upset to see him go. But signing Javon Hargrave for that much money was an eye raiser for me, Tyson. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great contract in 2023. And I think it might be a pretty good contract in 2024. I think it's going to look really bad. and maybe there's an out in there in 2025, but like you're paying him to go win a Super Bowl. We're overpaying this guy because we are lacking on the interior pass rush and we need somebody next to Armstead because that interior defensive line was pretty overrated by people, I think, this season. And Hargrave feasts when he's around monsters. And now he gets to go be around monsters. I think he was 3rd in the NFL in pass rush win rate for a defensive tackle over the last 2 years. I think that signified to me, like, we're just going to double down on what we're really, really good at. I don't read too much into the Darnold thing. I think he's a better backup than Josh Johnson, so that's cool. But Mike McGlinchey at the same time, like, not a great pass blocker, pretty good run blocker for a right tackle. Pretty important, I think, to some of the schemes that Shanahan was running and kind of the way that they want to get on the edge. McGlinchey was oftentimes the guy setting that side of the field. I think that's going to be a little bit bigger of a deal than maybe we're thinking right now. And we'll see how they replace him because they're pretty good at kind of finding somebody who didn't get to play the last 2 years on a different franchise, different organization. They find them, they plug them in, they play, and they play well. But I mean, McGlinchey got a bag, dude. He got priced out quick. And I think if you have to pick between a pass rushing interior defensive lineman and a above average run blocking right tackle, I think they made the right decision for the way that they play.
Yeah, I think so too, especially if he doesn't fit the offense and you're going to have to give him that much money. I agree. I mean, they're like, okay, what do we value? We'd rather have elite defensive tackles. Like, we know that's what the Niners like to have. They had to give up, it was Armstead that went to the Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Armstead, I think, right? Or one of the two.
Who?
Remember, they had those two monsters. Not Solomon Thomas. He went to the Raiders, but
Yeah, no. They've had a handful of guys.
yeah, so they've had a handful of guys as a defensive tackle, and their defense has been great for years. Now they just want to cycle in another guy, so they prioritize that over the linemen who they think that they can just teach how to do the zone blocking scheme anyway.
How much does the new defensive coordinator who's got a different – because before it was Saleh into D'Amico Ryans. We're running pretty much like a lot of the same stuff. And then you get a guy that's, from outside the team. How much is his input being valued there? And maybe that's Shanahan and Lynch showing some faith in a new face around the building.
Yeah, I mean, they probably recognize like, hey, Shanahan, we're comfortable with what he can do on offense, right? We're he can figure it out. We're not quite sure. Steve Wilkes coming in, he hasn't been in there. Now, he's a good defensive coach for sure, but I think, they may not necessarily just want to give him the keys to that defense without like, okay, this is our DNA. Keep some of the same things going because that's what's been working for him. So maybe that's something there. Wilkes has coached good interior defensive linemen throughout his defensive coordinating job. So, that's maybe another thing as well.
I'm happy that guy got a job. It just feels, I don't know, like it feels like this could be a self-driving car for the 49ers defense. Like, I don't know. It feels like how people talk about NBA coaches, that may be a little bit what you do with the San Francisco 49ers. It's like, hey, we got the best pass rushers at least, but who knows about as a unit? And obviously it's all on paper right now. We could get to the season and they could look like buns, but I don't think that's going to happen. It was an interesting day for San Francisco. I didn't think that they were going to come out, swinging right away. I kind of thought this was a sit back and wait.
Yeah, it certainly shows you where their mindset is. I mean, with questions at the quarterback, they're like, hey, let's just at least maintain like an elite roster. So if we do have those questions, maybe the rest of the talent can continue to raise our level up. Okay, let's move into the best of the rest here, Tyson, as we close out the offseason office. Because I thought there were some teams that were sneaky. And the one I want to highlight are the Atlanta Falcons. I thought they had a great day today. Chris Lindstrom, their offensive guard, re-signed 5 years, $105 million. Huge deal. Now, is that, is Chris Lindstrom worth that much money? Probably not. But at the end of the day, they had a ton of cap space. They needed to shore up this offensive line as they're still questions about it.
And he's their best offensive player.
Exactly. Especially on that offensive line. Got Jonnu Smith in a trade with the Patriots. So reuniting Arthur Smith and Jonnu Smith, who were over in Tennessee together, only had to give up a 2023 7th-round pick. And this was a huge signing that the Patriots had a couple years ago in the offseason. Re-signed Lorenzo Carter, their edge rusher, 2-year deal. Defensive lineman David Onyemata, which was a big name out there. They signed him on a 3-year, $35 million, 24.5 guaranteed. Your boy, Jesse Bates, the safety from the Bengals, 4-year, $64 million, 23 guaranteed in year one. And from there, hey, if he stinks, we can move on. I thought this was a great, great day for the Falcons in that front office.
And they started it early. I think the Jonnu Smith thing is going to be huge because he's at least top 5, if not top 3 of the best run blocking tight ends in the NFL. And I think for the way that they want to play, that helps. And I also think that might help out, my boy. And I think slowly turning you on Kyle Pitts here, I think that helps him out as well. I think that's like, hey, dude, we tried it. He can't block. We just got to get the guy the ball in his hands to make plays. So I like that. And then sometimes as a team that's really not very good, but you're close to the playoffs, you talk yourself into these things, and the division doesn't look like it's getting any better for the Falcons. But that's why you front load these contracts. That's why you can go out and give $28 million guaranteed to a safety and have people like scratching their heads a little bit. You front load these things, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But they're not very far away from making the playoffs, and the roster's still not very good. We don't know how good Desmond Ridder really can be. But they're certainly just saying, hey, man, if he can just not crash the car, we can make the playoffs.
And they could potentially be aggressive in the quarterback market, maybe whether it's through the draft or not. That's to be seen. Tyson, is there another team that stood out to you?
The Green Bay Packers and the New York Jets. I think that's something that was truly the best part of the day was Trey Wingo tweeting out that the deal was done, but not corroborating it with any source. After leaving the set on ESPN to take a call and tell us that, what do you say, talks are mounting, whatever that means, that Rodgers will be a Jet, and then nothing happening at the end of the day. It was perfectly Aaron Rodgers, and you could describe the last 3 years of his Packers tenure just like this. Both of these teams are ready to just get it over with. And he's sitting there like, I don't know if I come back, if I don't come back, who cares, dude? Make up your mind. You're not. If this was Aaron Rodgers coming off back-to-back MVP seasons, then I'd be like, yeah, dude, you take however long you want. But the way you look last year, combined with the antics, I think everybody in the country is just like, please decide.
Yeah, 100%. I want to shout out the Houston Texans. I thought they had a quiet day today, but I think they did a good job. Like, nothing that's going to eye pop anybody out there. They're like, whoa, the Texans. But they re-signed their center, Quesenberry. I think that's a big thing for them. Obviously, they're going to be looking for a quarterback, so I think getting him back is a good start. Hassan Ridgeway signed with them, 1-year deal. Chase Winovich expected to sign with them. I think that's a done deal at this point. So a couple defensive linemen coming in there. Re-signed their safety, MJ Stewart, and then got Robert Woods, 2 years, $15.25 million deal, $10 million fully guaranteed. So getting a veteran in there. They're probably going to move on now from the not very happy Brandon Cooks in Houston.
Imagine
so getting another
vet,
Robert
Houston,
Woods.
dude.
Oh,
I
my
couldn't.
God.
Oh, he'd freak out. And I think the Robert Woods deal that's what I was just talking about, where it's like a bad team paying a mentor contract almost. Like, hey, can you teach Nico Collins how to play, John Mechie how to play? Maybe a wideout at 12. That's still, I think, in play. But also shout out Josh Oliver today. I was shocked when that came across. Great blocker, good football player, but for him to set the tight end market and set it early, that was not on my bingo card for sure.
Case Keenum also signing with the Texans, 2 years, $6.25 million, 4 guaranteed. Good for Case, man. He's going to be there. He's going to mentor the young guys. So another mentorship thing for the Texans. So I think they're figuring out, hey, we got to get serious, man. Like, it's been a joke the past 4 years. Let's fucking get serious. Let's start building this thing up. So
hopefully their accounting department keeps it together.
Yeah, they have to.
Did you see that story?
No, I didn't.
The accounting department in Houston, or the Deshaun Watson contract thing, where apparently they didn't pay out the amount that the NFL wanted, and the NFL said it was deliberate, and the Texans said it was accounting error or a rounding error or something.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it now. Lose draft pick, fined $175,000 for the violation.
It was crazy, and it's a bit ridiculous to just be like, yeah, I don't know, it was the accounting department.
Lost of a 5th-round draft pick this year.
So they get punished for having to pay him $150 or $100 million or whatever over the last couple of years, and then they get fined and get a pick taken from them.
Yeah,
good move, Roger.
I think the Broncos had a good day today, Tyson. I'll run through it quick. Getting Ben Powers, offensive guard, 4-year, $52 million, 28.5 guaranteed. Then Mike McGlinchey, who we talked about, signing with the Broncos, getting the bag, as you said, 5 years, $87.5 million, $50 million guaranteed. Re-signing Alex Singleton, Montana guy, Montana State, who had I thought he had a good season last year, so good for him. And this was interesting. I'm surprised the Raiders didn't keep Jarrett Stidham, but 2 years, $10 million for Jarrett Stidham to go to the Broncos and back up Russell Wilson. Said he wanted to be there and learn from Sean Payton. So that was interesting to me. But I thought the Broncos did good. They need offensive line help. Did it, went out and did it, and then let's protect Russ and figure things out from there.
And they're not done with the talks of one of Sutton, Judy, or Tim Patrick getting traded. I mean, on the contracts, you got to keep Tim Patrick. Like the way that these receivers match up with each other, I think him and Sutton are a little bit redundant. So that's why I think Cortland's probably the one out the door. But they're not done. I thought they had a good day. Sean Payton came out and said, I'm going to fix this offensive line. And day one, he's just like, I'm spending this money. You guys can't tell me what to do. I'm not shopping at Walmart. I don't give a shit. We're getting top of the line stuff here. I liked what they did. I also liked what the Chiefs did, just moving on from Orlando Brown and going out and finding what many are assuming is a replacement. It was Juwan Johnson, right?
Or Juwan Taylor.
Juwan Taylor, sorry. Going out and getting him. He played like 3 snaps on the left side of the ball. So I don't know necessarily if he's going to slot in at left tackle like everyone else thinks. They also need right tackle. But moving on from somebody who wants a bunch of money and just identifying a guy that you want. And if he does move over to left tackle, like the Chiefs are the team to make it work. It seems like they never miss.
I know. And he signs 4-year, $80 million, 60 guaranteed. So the Orlando Brown's like, I want money. They're like, no, what we're going to do is bring in another guy who wants money.
We're giving this guy the Michael McGlinchey contract.
Yeah, 100%. Anybody else that stands out to you before we get out of this edition of the Offseason Office?
Just the 0 wide receiver contracts. I think the refusal to do what happened last year, basically, because that flipped the entire NFL world on its head. And it's funny to talk about the Christian Kirk deal, but that seemingly led to Tyreek getting traded, Devontae getting traded, the slew, 6 first-round wide receivers last year. I think this year people are like, dude, I don't want to be the first one. I don't want everybody mad at me when I set this thing way too high. And the wide receivers on this market are not good. Like, you're talking yourself into Juju, maybe as your number 1 wide receiver in this free agent class. Like, I'm curious what day they're going to get signed on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that too. Like you said, not a great one, so I don't think there's going to be too many headliners. But the next edition of the Offseason Office, I'm sure, will come as bigger names fall, as the quarterbacks finally decide. Maybe if Lamar Jackson, if he actually gets dealt, if this game of chicken finally ends up there in Baltimore. But who knows? Aaron Rodgers may retire. That's going to have to be something we discuss as well. But later this week, we have the NCAA bracket that we're going to go through. Early thoughts on that to help you fill out the bracket where we are leaning to who we think is going to win. In our chalkboard that Tyson will tell you about real quick, we already gave out our first future, already have CLV on it. We identified that, have major CLV. I'm getting a little nervous, so Tyson, because people are jumping on board, but where can they follow us in the meantime?
It is on the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store. It's on Google Play, wherever you download your apps. And just like Brad said, we're in there throwing down bets on pretty much anything you can imagine. We have Duke to win the national championship. We put that out in there. That we thought they looked really good in the conference championship game. We got that at plus 4,000. The next day it was plus 3,000. So it's just stuff like that. And even if you don't agree with us, it's always good to kind of beat the book is how it feels when you get that huge closing, especially when those things hit. We just narrowly missed on a golf parlay this week. Shout out to Rory McIlroy.
Thanks, fun. Rory.
And John Rahm. I mean, him withdrawing we would have been equally as upset. But we're never playing against Scotty Scheffler again. He'll be on every ticket from here on out. But all that's in the Chalkboard app.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share. We appreciate you guys watching. Our Instagram is @_the_roundtable_pod. The TikTok handle is the same. And then you can send us a tweet over @TRT_pod. Again, interact with us. Like Tyson said, join the chalkboard. We've got some people throwing in other bets as well. So it's not just us giving out picks. Other people are. So if you like the bet, it's a little community in there. We'll be back this week. More basketball. Another edition of the Draft Dive as we continue our journey towards the NFL draft. So we got a ton of content coming out for everybody. I can't wait for this week. This is a big one. This is a fun one. So we will speak to you all later, guys. Peace.